Hello and welcome to ShameOver, where you can lose the hangover, not the booze. I'm your host, Erica Mallery, and this is a podcast for those interested in moderation and drinking less, and who want to find peace and balance in their consumption. I am on this journey with you, and I am proof that you can drink less without going cold turkey or all out sober. If this sounds good to you, let's get started. Hello and welcome back to ShameOver. I'm your host, Erica Mallery, and today we are going to be talking about something that comes up all the time. It did constantly with myself when I started early on in this process, and so many of the people I work with. The biggest issue really can come down to finding the off button. And so today we're talking tips and tricks to help you stop drinking once you've started. Because for some of us, it might be easy to take days off, but then when we drink, we just don't want to stop. And there are so many different reasons why that is that I'll get into a little bit. But this is really going to be an episode for those who are wanting to stop drinking once they've started, but really struggle finding their off button. So with that, number one, no, you are not alone. I myself dealt with that. Almost everyone who I've worked with has. It is something that is super, super common. So the great news is you can learn how to find your off button and stop drinking when you want to. There are certain medications that can really, really help with this that I will briefly touch on, mainly because I have not taken them myself. But just so you know a little bit about me, in case you're new to ShameOver, I'm Erica Mallery, and I have been a lifelong drinker and enjoyer of booze. Definitely the one always with a wine glass in my hand. I used alcohol socially. I used it as a reward for getting through the end of the day, a stressful week, and really to cope. And I didn't realize that that's how I was using it until the pandemic. And, so many of us found ourselves at home where we thought it was going to be maybe 2 weeks, and clearly turned into a lot longer than that. So it got to the point where I just realized, I'm like, when was the last day that I hadn't had a drink? And it didn't mean that I was waking up drinking all day, every day, but I was having drinks every single day, even if it was a glass or two of wine. I would say most days it was probably 2 to 4 glasses of wine, if I'm being honest. And then a lot of binging, especially, weekend binging, because we weren't doing anything. We weren't going anywhere. My husband and I are very happy when we drink. We don't fight, so it wasn't impacting our relationship. Life was honestly pretty good in a sense during COVID. Just we really soaked in having that time together. That being said, there is a lot of other stuff going on. The unknown, the scariness of just like, this was supposed to be 2 weeks. How long is this going to last? All of that. So there was a lot more under the surface going on that I wasn't even realizing. Plus I had a family business that, went from doing phenomenally to almost, completely shutting down because we work with schools and teams and sports, and that wasn't happening. So, there was a lot of stress going on. But when you're drinking, especially when you're drinking every day, a lot of that you don't really seem to know, and it becomes very habitual. I personally found myself like 10 a.m. being like, which bottle of wine should I have tonight? And the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, this is not the relationship that I want. And after more and more happened, losing, I think, 2 different people that I was pretty close with for different reasons, but both of them died during COVID. One of them was specifically alcohol. The other was drugs. So that definitely puts things in perspective. And then I had someone else close to me who was in the ICU for broken ribs. And it was due to falling while being blackout drunk. And it was just kind of one of those moments to me that I wasn't there, but I also never wanted to get there. And I realized literally at that moment that most people who have rock bottom moments, it's not one rock bottom moment. It is multiple. And then for whatever reason, there's just one that seems to stick and to be their rock bottom. But why wait until rock bottom? And I'm very into fitness and health and just wellness. And for me, it's almost like waiting until you have 100, 200, 300 pounds to lose until you start working out or eating healthy or moving your body. To me, that's so much harder and overwhelming and just intimidating to even get started. So when it came to drinking, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to wait for a rock bottom. If I wait for a rock bottom, it's going to be your only option is to never drink again. And I didn't want that either. And if I'm also being very honest here, I didn't want to even think about a life without alcohol. Granted, now I'm at a point to where I almost never drink. When I do, it's typically one or two, if I even have two, if I even finish the second. But I'm at a very happy, peaceful place. And again, just a few years ago, I would have never thought that this was possible. And I mean, I don't even have a drink every single week. So this is something that has been a huge transformation in my life, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything. But it's all because I didn't approach it in the black or white or nothing mentality. I had tried every diet out there in my first diet was in like third grade or something insane. So I knew the all or nothing did not work for me. From working with so many people, know that the all or nothing does not work for most people. And there are scientific reasons behind that. But I just want you to know I've actually been where you are and know how hard it is to take a day off, how hard it is to stop drinking once you've started, how hard it is to be thinking about what you're going to have that evening at 10 a.m., even if you're not drinking then. So I have been there. I knew something had to change. And I know that's why you're listening right now, is you're in the same place. And I want you to know I get it, but it wasn't easy. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be highs and lows, just as with everything. But my whole process was avoiding cold turkey, not doing it alone, and not having complete avoidance of everything, of triggers, of social life, of all the things. Right now, as I'm recording this, many people are participating in Dry January, which, if done right, I think it's a great, great, great thing. The problem is most people do it horribly wrong and end up come wet February drinking so much more than they were previously, or find it harder to take days off, find it harder to stop drinking once they've started. And that is because all of January, when you are completely taking it away, most people avoid all situations, all triggers, basically all life. And then come February, go back to, their normal day to day and just expect that they're magically cured, or that they're not dealing with the same stuff that they were previously, when they didn't really do any of the work. They didn't understand why they drink. They didn't understand their nervous system and their habits and triggers and all of that stuff. So as you're going through this process, the biggest thing I would recommend to you is, unless you absolutely have to, or if you're into it, I'm all for it, but don't do cold turkey unless you know what you're doing and you're actually doing it right. Do not avoid the social situations or the triggers or the anything. You have to learn how to do this. It is called practice. You practice drinking and you got really, really good at it. That's why you're here. And I did too. I was a champion drinker. So understand that because of that, you're going to have to practice a new way of drinking. You're going to have to practice a new mindset, a new way to understand moderation, to understand your nervous system and how your mind and body and brain works and works together and works against you, all in the sake of trying to keep you safe, even if you know in reality it's not actually doing that. And then lastly, doing this alone is the worst thing that you can do. As humans, we were not made to do life alone, especially hard things. This would fall under hard things. So making sure that you have some sort of community or coach or accountability buddy that is really supportive and encouraging and empowering and uplifting is really going to help. So if you're still listening, I'm guessing you can relate to this. Maybe you have heard of gray area drinker. That's where, it's not impacting your day to day. You're not waking up drinking all day, anything along those lines, but it's not easy to take a day off, or it's not easy to stop once you've started. You're kind of in that middle ground where it's not crazy problematic, but I hate this word, but quote unquote normal drinker. You're probably fully functioning. I know for me, it was not causing any issues in my relationships. It was not causing any issues, work, anything along those lines. I was fully functioning. But that all or nothing mindset is just so detrimental for so many people. So what if I told you that there was actually a better way? A way that you could have fun and be fun and build your confidence while still being able to have a drink here and there, that you could actually learn how to deal with stress, because most of your drinking is actually stress induced. I am a firm believer a lot of people do not actually have a drinking problem. drinking is their solution. And most of that is because we don't know how to deal with stress or any other negative emotions. And with my process, you're still able to be social and have all the celebrations. And again, this is not a stop drinking. This is not a sober program. This is not any of that. This is a way that you could really achieve moderation and mindfulness and still drink while easily being able to find your off button. So imagine what that life could look like for you. If you are ready to really dive in, the great news is you can absolutely do this. And I'm going to fill you with some really great tools and tricks and practices that are going to help during this time. And you can use this for other things too. This is not just drinking specific. Obviously, I'm going to talk about it there, but so much of consumption leads down to the same thing. And the reason why I bring this up is most people, especially those doing dry January, for example, right now, they find themselves eating more or spending more time on social media or spending more money on Amazon or online shopping because it's literally cross addiction. They're taking one and just moving it to another place. That, again, come February, makes it that much harder because once you start drinking, you're having issues there. And now you've created another bad habit where you're eating more or snacking more or mindlessly spending or scrolling or any of that. So all of these skills are transferable skills for most forms of consumption. So the number one thing that helped me early on was I came up with drink like a player. So P.L.A.Y.E.R. When you drink like a player, you are going to plan and prepare. And the prepare part is, I think, where most people fall off. Most people will say, okay, I'm going to have 3 drinks when I go out this weekend. And it stops there. When you prepare, if you're going out, you're going to the website for the restaurant or the bar to actually be specific with what those drinks are. Maybe you're hosting a girls' night or going over to game night at a friend's house. How can you prepare? It is bringing the drinks that you're going to drink. It is bringing booze-free options, something like that. So you can actually see your plan through. Be specific with this, but the preparation piece is just as important as the planning. So that's your P. Start later. I always recommend starting with a booze-free option. Literally anything that is non-alcoholic is going to be great, but I personally love booze-free options that make it feel a little bit more elevated. That is a great choice. Hot drinks, another thing that you can do. But so much of our drinking is more psychological than we realize. So starting later, but still having something in your hand, non-alcoholic, often scratches the itch that I have so many clients that once they start putting this into practice, start realizing like, I actually don't feel like drinking anymore. Like they almost have to talk themselves into it. And again, if you notice, I said practice. You have to keep doing this. You have to implement it time and time. And it's about consistency and showing up and practicing these skills. So your L is later. A, alternate. I want you to alternate at least 1-for-1 alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks. The more non-alcoholic, the better, obviously, but don't just do sugary, caloric drinks. Make sure water is your number one. I have at least 1, if not 2 big glasses of water in between each drink. Sparkling water is great. You can definitely do that. Jazz it up if you want to put some fruit in it or, cucumber, lemon, mint, anything to just make it feel a little bit more elevated. That's awesome. But as I'm sure you're aware, alcohol dehydrates us. You want to make sure you are hydrating as you're drinking because it is that much more important that we have water as we're drinking because we need to replenish. That being said, when we're drinking, since it's a diuretic, we're using the restroom more, we're also getting rid of vitamins and minerals and electrolytes and all those good things. So another great alternate is using some sort of electrolyte drink. Instant hydration, I've heard amazing things about. I personally haven't tried it myself yet. I'm a big fan of Element. It's LMNT. That's my favorite. Emergency is also another great one. I typically do that as my nightcap. I'll get to that later, but just different things. And again, your focus here is hydration. And you want to make sure you're having them in between. Granted, if you're drinking water as you're drinking alcohol, absolutely. But make sure you have at least that full glass of water in between each. And also, a lot of people don't realize, but our bodies can only process 1 alcoholic drink per hour. So really trying to focus to one drink an hour max. And that is actually a drink. So that's not a huge, 12-ounce pour of wine. That would actually be considered 2+ drinks. So making sure that you're sticking within what that actually looks like. So A is alternate. Why? Know your why. It might just be that you don't want to feel lousy tomorrow. It might be bigger. We all need a bigger why, because we've all been in the moments, especially once we start drinking, that our why doesn't matter. So I know for me, especially early on, I am not one. I can be very frugal, and having a workout class the next morning, you can't cancel the workout class typically within 12 hours. So that would help me make sure that I was drinking the water and focusing on like when I was going to end. But I was not going to be so hungover the next day that I couldn't make it to the workout class. So have something the next morning early on that you know you're not going to bail on. So something like that can really help. But a deeper why is going to really help in those moments. And a big part of this is slowing down and being mindful so that you can actually remember your why. Putting it in your phone and looking at it as you're drinking, before you drink, during, that is going to be very helpful because, again, once alcohol is in our system, it is essentially paralyzing parts of our brain so that we don't have that forward thinking ability. Having to stop and remind ourselves what that why is crucial. All right, your E, eat and end earlier. A lot of us, especially, those who grew up in America or probably any part of the planet, we were kind of taught eat when you're drinking because it will hit your system faster, you'll drink less, all that. We all know that's complete baloney, and that just makes us, yes, get drunk faster, but then we're eating worse, we're all the things. So I want you to focus on eating as you're drinking. There's a reason why so many countries literally will not serve alcohol without some sort of snack with it. So eat before, eat during. Women, focus on protein. It is so important for us to get protein as often as possible. And we'll get into that in a different episode, the importance of protein. But protein, if you're going to have anything, protein is your number one. I know a lot of times when we're drinking, we're going for carbs and stuff like that that we think is going to soak it up. Pretty much an urban legend, not going to do what we think it is. Protein is going to be your best friend. It's going to help stabilize your blood sugar, which is also going to make sure that you're not having those crazy crashes. Alcohol turns into sugar. That's what makes us have those urges and cravings that we want, something sweet, or if you're more the salty person, that is why we're going for all of that, is because of the sugar crash that we're getting. Protein is going to help that much more during that time. And the other part of E is the end earlier. If you are starting later and ending earlier, your window for drinking is automatically going to be less. So if you stick to that shorter window without drinking more, drinking quicker, you are automatically going to be drinking less. And again, keeping in mind that one drink per hour goal, max is kind of the best thing for you to really have in the back of your mind. And then lastly, is rest and repeat. As we're drinking, basically some experts say once you have any alcohol in your system, but at the end of the day, once there's alcohol in your system, our body is literally trying to get rid of the toxic poison that we're putting in it. I'm not here to debate. Alcohol is a poison. It's a carcinogen. It's all of that. So when it's in our body is trying to process it as quickly as possible to get rid of it. When we have a certain amount of alcohol, again, some experts say any alcohol at all, but once alcohol's in the bloodstream, we cannot really reach REM sleep, which is the most important part of sleep for recovery, for brain development, for all of that, if there's alcohol in our system. So making sure that you're getting that alcohol out of your system before sleep is imperative. So there is your drink like a player, P.L.A.Y.E.R. Plan, start later, alternate, know your why, eat and end earlier, and then rest and repeat. Some more tools and tricks that are maybe not as talked about, but these are some things that definitely really, really worked for me. Quality over quantity. When I first wanted to kind of work on drinking before this was even much more front of mind, when I actually started doing something about it, I was noticing I was drinking more than I had been, but it wasn't necessarily great stuff that I was loving. It was just stuff that I was used to. So I was drinking it more quickly. I wasn't being mindful with it. So I decided I was going to up my budget for wine, but drink less. So essentially my budget would kind of stay the same because I would be spending more on the bottle of wine I was buying, but I would be drinking less of it was the intention there. So really focusing on the quality of the alcohol over the quantity. This can really help slow us down as we're drinking. Another trick that worked for me was see into your future. And again, this is everything from the next day and making sure that you're setting yourself up for success. So schedule that 8 a.m. class or meet a friend for coffee or whatever that looks like if you know you're not going to bail on it. But really looking into your future and planning ahead can help us in the moment. Once we've had too much, that is going to be irrelevant. As I said, our brain essentially is paralyzed from that decision-making process once we've had a certain amount. So that is why it is really, really, really important for you to know your number. And what I mean by that is we all typically have a number that when we are below it, we have good decision making. We don't have to worry about blacking out or saying things that we wish we hadn't. A lot of times for me, if I stay under my number, driving is never at all something that I would be concerned about, anything along those lines. But once I go over that number, all bets are off. For me, my number's 2. If I have 2 or less, I'm good. As soon as I have that sip of the third, the reason why that's so problematic is 3 turns into 5. So it's not really 3, it's 3 helps me tumble down that hill a lot quicker. Where if I do 2 or less, I never have to worry about falling down that hill. So know your number, know what that looks like, and stick with it. Do whatever you can to stay within that number for you. Another one. Kind of talked about this a little bit, but mix it up, be free style. What I mean by be free is booze free. Booze free options were paramount for me. It's not something that, I have so many. Unfortunately, I have a lot that have gone bad because, unlike alcohol, they don't last forever. I've learned, unfortunately, the hard way. But when I have booze free options and I start with those, I almost never drink after them because it scratches the itch. Back to what I was saying earlier about drinking being more psychological than we realize. Sometimes it's just that glass in our hand. It's moving something around. It's opening the bottle. It's cracking that can. So much of it is really that dopamine that we get when we're thinking about drinking. And then when we have the first sip or we pour that drink, it's not actually about the drink. So find booze-free options that you love. For me, Gießen is kind of my number one go-to. If I have Gießen, I do not care what other options there are. I will drink that over anything. So find something that you love, that you enjoy, that you're happy to drink, because that will literally change everything for you. And I promise there are some terrible ones out there. I get it, but there are some really, really, really great ones too. So I have a link on my website. Feel free to check that out. It's under the blogs, but I did a best drinks of 2025, I think, something along those lines. So if you want a resource for my personal faves, I do not get paid for these. Some of them might have links on there, but they are drinks that I actually drink myself. Like, you only make the list if I'm like, oh my God, I love this. So try out some options. People love trying options too. So if you have a party coming up, bring a booze-free option. I have never once, when I've brought one, had someone like be weird about it or like anything. It has been nothing but intrigue, sharing with me, all that good stuff. So check out, find some good ones. When you find a bad one, just move on and go to the next, because I promise you, you have not liked every single alcoholic drink that you've tried. So don't expect to like every non-alcoholic drink that you try either. All right, moving on. Make it fun and be present. So I know we all love drinking games, at least most of us. I know I was a big fan of the drinking games. You can still do the drinking games, just do it with water. Another thing is gamify the experience. I would find someone, like if we were out at the bar or, hanging at a party or something, I would find someone who I could tell was not really a big drinker, that kind of just had a drink in their hand just to kind of have one, and see if I could have my drink last longer than theirs. Little things like this that help gamify it and make it fun. The other thing on that is be present. I was shocked how often I was internally thinking, like, when am I going to get my next drink? What am I going to have? Am I ordering it too soon? Does anyone else want it? Am I going to be the only one drinking? Like, all this was going on in my head, and I wasn't actually present. I was thinking more about the next drink than actually enjoying the drink that I had. So this is, again, your body can only process one drink an hour. Try to make your drink last a good 30 to 45 minutes and be present. When you are, you're naturally going to be drinking less. Another one, ask for help. I cannot believe how much people struggle asking or accepting help. I had no problem telling the bartender or the waiter, server, whoever, I only want 2 drinks. Can you, like, no matter what I say, if I change my mind, only bring me 2. And I never had pushback. Most of them were like, that's amazing. Yes, I'm happy to help. Or, if early on when I just wasn't confident in it, I'd be like, if you need to charge me for it, you can. But if I ask for vodka soda, only bring me soda water with lime. So no one would know any difference. It looks the exact same. And there you go. So again, ask for help. The bartenders, restaurant staff, they are going to be more than happy to help you. Please just tip them good accordingly, but utilize help. Or at your table, you can tell, like, your best friend or the group, depending on how you feel comfortable, I am only going to drink X amount. If I say I want more, please don't let me. Or, you guys, I'm not going to go in on the bottle. I'm only going to have 2 glasses and be done. Something like that. So stating it accordingly, when you state it with confidence, people are going to be much more respectful of your decision, less likely to try to negotiate with you to keep drinking with them or anything. It's so much about confidence. And the only way we get that confidence is by practicing. So keep on practicing. Think of these as muscles that you have to strengthen. Your drinking muscles are super duper strong. And now you have to it's like in Pilates or bar, like those tiny little muscles that you didn't know you had until you take a class and you're like, oh my God, this hurts so bad. So it's kind of like that. Like, these are those tiny little muscles that now you have to practice. So that's exactly what this is. Another one, think of it like your eggs. Low and slow is the best way to cook your eggs. Same with drinking. Go for low ABV options. That's always a great, great, great way to go. That's why a lot of the seltzers do really well, is they're lower ABV options. So, and that's ABV, alcohol by volume. Look for lower options. If you are going to do the hard stuff, I totally get it. Make sure you're doing it slow. So I know some people, it's just something on the rocks. Add the soda water in it. Don't do it on the rocks. If you're doing it on the rocks, 1 and done or 2 and done max. But really, again, some of these you're not going to want to do. If you like your bourbon just with an ice cube in it or neat, you might not want to, quote unquote, water it down. And that's okay. But if you really want to drink less, what are some other things that you can do to implement change so you're not just driving yourself insane by doing the same thing yet expecting different results? You really have to understand that in order to get change, we have to change. So I love the do it like your eggs and do it low and slow. Slowing down is always going to be helpful. Again, back to that 1 drink an hour, great thing to keep in mind. The last one that I believe I have for you is find a new nightcap. Personally, loved my nightcap. It was that drink when I got home that, it was always waiting for me. And then I realized that was always a trash drink. That was a drink that never needed to make it in my system. So what I started doing was, before I would even leave the house, I would have either a booze-free option or my tea kettle, tea emergency. I like it hot. I know it's weird, but I would have that. So as soon as I walked in the door, it was all I saw. So I'm like, if you want a nightcap, have one of these. There are plenty of booze-free options that mimic certain things that you would have kind of as a nightcap. But especially after you've already had a couple drinks, your body is not able to process it. All it is driving for that sugar. And that's what's leading to the hangover, to the dehydration, to all of this. Find a nightcap that is going to really focus on hydration or supplementing your system with minerals, vitamins, electrolytes, all of that. So again, my personal favorite, I do emergency hot. It does it every time. The reason why I am such a fan of hot drinks, whether it's for your first drink, as you're alternating, as your nightcap, I do it for kind of all of them. But it is so important to do a hot drink, because when we have a hot drink, we automatically pause, get present, and slow down. Because when we have something hot in our hands, our brain, no matter how drunk we are, our brain tells us this is dangerous. You need to pay attention. So it gets us present and in the moment. When we're drinking something hot, we can't chug hot drinks, right? Again, it's protecting our body that we can't do that. So we automatically drink slower. So if you're doing something like emergency that's actually helping replenish some of the stuff that we've been losing while we've been drinking, or doing a night tea that's going to help you sleep a little bit better, it's also going to help you with hydration. These are all great things that help you slow down and prepare for sleep mentally, physically, and emotionally. So those are some of my personal favorite tips, tricks, all of that for finding your off button, for drinking less, and really for drinking on purpose. So I want you to remember that practice makes perfect. Whatever you practice, you get really good at, and we're all here because we're excellent, excellent drinkers. So start practicing a new way of drinking and learn how to work these new muscles. And if at first you don't succeed, which most of you won't, it took plenty of practice for me to try again. Almost no one gets this immediately because we practice drinking a lot. So we have to practice moderation a lot to get it. So patience is a virtue. You have to be very patient with yourself during this process. You have to show yourself a ton of love and grace and just, again, that patience. And the way that you can do that is by getting curious. Some questions that I really like to ask is, was I being present or was I just showing up? So often in my life, especially as a mom of 2 young kids, I see how much I just show up just to check the box or to physically be a warm body there, but I'm not actually present. So that's why my intention for 2026 is slowing down and showing up and really being present. So when we are present, when we're mindful, we naturally drink less. So really focusing on that. Another question to ask is, did I check in with myself? How was I feeling? How was I thinking? What was I thinking? What was I feeling? These type of questions let us actually uncover, were we drinking because we wanted to? Were we drinking mindlessly? Were we drinking because we were nervous or anxious or trying to get some liquid courage, any of that? There is no right or wrong answer. There is just data, and data we can use. So with that, data-wise, what triggers came up? Was it something that was working for you or against you? Obviously, most triggers are things that typically seem negative, but all a trigger is your body and brain's way of saying, I need you to pay attention. And what we typically do, especially with alcohol, is do the opposite of paying attention. We are trying to quiet it. We are trying to remove it or get it away or push it down. So we are doing the opposite of getting curious or actually solving the problem. It's literally like putting a Band-Aid over a plumbing problem. Like, all right, you're lucky if it holds for a second, but it's definitely not a long-term solution. And with that, was I actually enjoying the moment? Was I enjoying the drinks? This comes back to what I shared earlier, where I wouldn't even be done with my drink and I'm like already thinking about ordering the next. So that shows I was not present and in the moment. So here I was really trying to connect, but my connection was more about connecting with the alcohol or the glass that I was drinking, not so much the company that I was with. So when we're curious, we cannot have judgment there. That's literally the whole point of curiosity, is judgment is removed. So get curious as you're going through this process and remove any and all judgment. Afterward, reflection is really, really huge, and seeing what worked, what didn't. What can you learn from this experience? Like I said, a big part of this is really understanding the data behind it and using the data for your advantage. If you want to carry the momentum forward, you've got to celebrate. You've got to find wins and celebrate every win, no matter how big or small. To me, the smaller the win, the better it is, because that is more likely that you will actually repeat that behavior. So our brains, our bodies want that positive reinforcement. That's why we drink. We've had a lot of positive reinforcement. That is what keeps us going back. So celebrate the wins, give yourself that positive reinforcement, and you are going to be training your body and your brain. This is what I want more of. It's going to look more for that and try to have that happen more. With that, if you have any questions, please, please, please reach out. That's exactly what I'm here for. I do have a new group starting soon. So ShameOver is changing a little bit in how I do things. And instead of a join anytime, it is moving to essentially cohorts that you can join with a group together, because when you join together at the same time, it is such a magical experience. So feel free to check the website out for that. I also have Self-Love-You-Ary coming up that is the perfect thing to do as you're going through just life, because so much of our drinking is because we really need to work a little bit more on ourselves and what's going on internally. Self-Love-You-Ary is a perfect way to do that. It's literally $7. You can do it anytime, anywhere. You can do it as many times. I do it at least once or twice a year typically. So definitely something to circle back to when you just need some reflection and some guidance, what's going on and what's coming up for you. I hope this was helpful. I hope you were able to take away and learn a lot from really how to find your off button once you've started drinking, and just easy ways to drink less as you're going through this process. And remember, harm reduction is so effective and it works. So focus on harm reduction. If sobriety is something that you're interested in, absolutely go for it. If it is too intimidating or overwhelming right now, harm reduction is so much better than just continuing on the path that you're on. So with that, sending you all so much love, wishing you all a great carried on 2026, since we're over halfway through January right now. But yeah, just show yourself love and grace, and please extend that to others. And know ShameOver is here for you whenever you need it. So here is your reminder to drink less, drink on purpose, and you can lose the hangover without losing the booze. So you've got this. We'll see you soon. Okay, before you guys go, if you are tired of the hangovers, the guilt, shame, regret, or maybe you're just thinking about alcohol way too much, ShameOver can help. I will teach you how to drink less, feel better, and actually enjoy life without the shame spiral. If you're interested, go to shameover.me and learn more, and hopefully you'll start today. Cheers to that. ShameOver is the mindful drinking program designed for women who desire to drink less without losing the booze completely. If you want to transform your relationship with alcohol and live a healthier, confident, and balanced life, go to shameover.me and get started today. You deserve it, you're worth it, your future self thanks you. Cheers!